Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. I've got some good news for you today. So, South Carolina and Louisiana are now constitutional carry. Now, I'm a little nervous, though, about that. Here's why. I don't see very many more states being able to pull that off. And what I mean by that is if you look at the Union as it sits, constitutional carry is now law of the land. I mean, the majority of states now have constitutional carry. Every other state by law now has shall issue instead of may issue, which is, a night and day shift from where we once were in the country. But if you look at the political situation and at those individual states that are still shall issue, and not constitutional carry states, they're deep blue. And that tells me that getting constitutional carry in those deep blue states is very unlikely. My state is blue. I would say we're a lighter shade of blue, mostly because their mass populations are in Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and Santa Fe. So there's a potential here in New Mexico if populations shift a little bit, but it's not very likely. And, that's sad. But I wonder if, with the majority of states now doing this, why isn't someone taking this up in the Congress and trying to get something passed that is, law of the land, if, at least at the national level? Because if something is passed that many states, making something legal should be kind of okay. I'm all about states' rights, and I understand that. But this is a constitutional right. This is something that should be upheld everywhere, even behind deep blue lines, Those of us who are stuck behind enemy lines, and I say stuck behind enemy lines, we're fighting the good fight here. We continually win here in New Mexico when it matters. If you look at what happened in the last session, we won. It was a Pyrrhic victory. We lost some things. We got a 7-day wait unless you have a concealed carry license in New Mexico. Then that 7-day wait is kind of null and void. But talking to some law enforcement agents, I found out that they can't even really enforce the 7-day waiting period in New Mexico because they don't know when the 7-day wait started. So here's an example. In New Mexico, we have universal background checks. Hasn't deterred crime in New Mexico. We're still one of the highest crime states in the Union, despite having these banner rules that even Biden was touting during the State of the Union. And if you were to have a private sale, so me and my friend get together. We decide that we're going to swap currency or whatever for a firearm, and he or myself are going to do this. So we're going to follow the law because we're good law-abiding citizens. So we go to an FFL, and I tell him, hey, man, I waited 7 days before I brought this here, but I need you to do a background check on him. How do they know that that isn't the case? There's no documentation that is required by law, and I'm okay with that. Anything that's unenforceable in the 2A community is kind of a good thing because there's no way that it should be brought to legal precedent or brought up in a case. So, that's the good news. We're still seeing the people hem and haw about stuff that's going on. It looks like the ATF is actually standing up to fight the Fifth Circuit's stay on the pistol brace rule. I don't think they'll win in Texas, but we'll see what happens. But I was more so curious about some other things I've seen. I've seen a couple people that have come out, and they weren't people I would have expected to be everyday carriers, but they are. And it makes me wonder what they carry. It's a weird conversation to have. I mean, if you think about it, if you see a guy carrying a 1911, don't you kind of think that, well, that's a boomer? Is it a generational thing, or is it just we kind of know that? Or you see someone open carrying a High Point, and you kind of judge them a little bit. I know we're not supposed to, and I try not to, but there is a little bit of me that does. And I wonder if that's the case with every one of our guns in our collection. So I was thinking about it. How would I break it down? Me being a little bit of a rebel, I would say that anyone who has an AR-15, myself included in this, is a little bit of a conformist in some ways. These are the people that just want something that always works. They want to seem cool, but they may not be as cool as they think they are, myself included. Maybe that's why they got the AR-15, or maybe they're a military guy, or maybe even you're a boomer and you've been in the military and that's the one weapon you know. Okay, what do you say about a Kalashnikov guy? Because Kalashnikovs can no longer be classified as a cheap firearm. If you look at the price of a Kalashnikov nowadays, is this a Gucci chaser that's trying to show that they side with the commies like it once used to be? Or is it a person that is just paying way too much for a gun that doesn't have the ergonomics and capability that the AR-15 does? I'm curious what people think. If you see a person with a .308 battle rifle, are they a boomer? Because, .308 is one of God's calibers, as my dad, who was a boomer, would say. And if you can't do it with a .308, you can't do it with anything else. Is that something to be said? I mean, the AR-15, the reason why the .556 caliber became so popular is because in real combat scenarios, you're not going to shoot 800, 600 meters all the time. You're going to be shooting, 200 to 300 yards, 200 to 300 meters. That's about the edge of what you're going to see and what you're going to do. Snipers, on the other hand, and DMRs, on the other hand, those guys will take those 600-yard shots or 600-meter shot, 800-meter shots. Do you see yourself as one of those? I'm very capable of that. I used to shoot long range, so that's kind of why I do it. But the reason why I like the .308 battle rifles has more to do with the fact that if that type of scenario comes on, I don't see myself being able to bug out and, I'm not physically fit enough to carry all the thousands of rounds of ammunition that I would want to carry with me. But the rounds I do carry, I want to be very good at what they do. Ballistically capable of either dropping game or dropping something, even behind a barrier of some kind, being barrier blind. That's something that's attractive to me. It just so happens that one of my go-to rifles for that type of scenario is a battle rifle. But it's also because it's kind of practical. I can, my PTRs are a great example, or my G3 style rifles, the roller delay guys. I can get all the parts, firing pins, bolt extractors, extractor pins for the extractor itself, extractor springs, recoil springs, you name it. All the parts I could possibly do, as well as keep the gun in headspace on my own. Okay, I do not need an armorer to keep that weapon in service ad infinitum. The same thing goes with the AR-15, though. I believe that the average end user, the average person, maybe they have the spare parts that they need. But because it is so ubiquitous, it is the Chevy, it is the Toyota Corolla, the Honda, Accord of the gun world, just like the Glock 19 is. It's very popular. Is it popular because it's reliable and because it's serviceable and because it's modular and new and serves all their needs? Or is it because you're just trying to be like everybody else? There's some individuality with the 2A that kind of makes sense, but at the same time, if you're looking at the serviceability of your weapon in one of these weird scenarios, if it were to ever kick off, what would it be? There's a reason why you look at these weapons more and more, especially, one of the things that I've spoke about, I've told you my walk through the AR-15 world and why I ended up becoming an AR-15 guy in addition to a Kalashnikov guy. It really was by accident. But after using it and actually doing some training classes with that and a Kalashnikov, what I learned is that there's a reason for the AR-15 rocking the world. The AR-15 you can load a hell of a lot faster than you can a Kalashnikov. Even as practiced as I am, I know that if I'm on the clock and I'm trying to shoot in a competition, I can load an AR-15 in a 3-gun competition a hell of a lot faster than I can with a Kalashnikov. 1 or 2 seconds matters in a match. and 1 or 2 seconds would matter in a firefight. The fact that you can get magazines everywhere and parts everywhere for the AR-15, that's a big draw, It's not that I would need those parts with a Kalashnikov. I have 5.56 Kalashnikovs. I kind of laugh at anyone buying 7.62x39 Kalashnikovs now. And the only reason why I laugh, it's a great gun, it's a great caliber, is where are you going to get the ammunition? Eventually we're going to run dry here, or the prices are going to be comparable to an AR-15. So why wouldn't you get a 5.56 AK and service both your AK itch and your AR itch? I have 5.45 AKs, and I'm sticking to Russian ammunition. I'm holding that as if it were gold right now because I know it's never coming back. Not in my lifetime, as long as Russia's being a turd, and until AAC, who is a company, it's Palmetto State Armory, who's spun up manufacturing and they're selling Kalashnikovs in 5.45s. Until we see an American manufacturer make 5.45 in comparable quantities, getting that ammunition is going to be a pain. So I love the caliber. I think it is one of my favorite calibers, but I'm reluctant to shoot it because of the ammunition source. Meanwhile, I can shoot my 308, my 5.56, and my 9mm till the cows come home if I can afford the ammunition. Same thing with the 22 long rifle. There's a reason why the 22 long rifle is so popular. Is because you can take it out, go shooting a day and not break the bank. Where, if you take an AR-15 out, it's going to cost you, but it's not going to break the bank either. 308, depends on what you're shooting, what ammunition you're shooting. And I say that because you can get cheaper 308 rounds. You still can get some steel case from here and there. It is still going to be more expensive than any of the other calibers you would probably use. But if you become really proficient with a 308, you're not just proficient in the skill, you're proficient in hunting. A 308, there is a number of ballistics that are out there. So you can look and find ballistics from the 308's inception till now. Same thing with the 5.56. So that means that you have a wide breadth of data for reloading, to make custom rounds, to do custom things with it. It's kind of true with the 5.56. But the 308's a little older, if I remember correctly, than the 5.56, than the 223. 308's been around a lot longer. And bullet selection for 30 caliber guns is pretty damn huge, because you can go down from varminting all the way up to elk hunting and moose hunting, because there's such a thing as a 300 Win Mag or 300 Weatherby Mag, and all of them use 308 caliber bullets. So if you wanted to use something like a 220 grain heavy for caliber for a 308 Blackout and get subsonic but have that kinetics that you want with that particular round, you could do it. That's one of the draws of the 300 Blackout. It's also why Palmetto State Armory is looking at making 300 Blackout AKs. If you think about it, there's another ammunition source, kind of ballistically similar to the Kalashnikov originally, the 7.62 Kalashnikov, that is, but an American round. And in this day and age, as much as I want to give guff to people about having AR-15s and being conformists, there's something to be said about being able to get parts and ammunition all the time. Where, I remember having my 8mm Mauser, and that was my only rifle, and having to take 30-06 brass and make 8mm Mauser brass because you couldn't find it. You couldn't, period. In the late 80s, early 90s, getting 8mm Mauser brass in San Juan County was damn hard. And it took an old reloader to show me how to do it. Show my dad and myself. So can you do it? Yeah. But should you do it? It's a network maxim in my career. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Maybe that's the case with guns too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever you carry, you carry. It's for your own reasons. Anybody can judge you for whatever you want. I would tell you it doesn't matter. As long as you are proficient with what you carry, know very well and can service what you carry, what does it matter? But I often wonder what my collection and what my everyday carry says about me just because I'm interested, not for any other reason. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, be great.